This week I'm driving the 2022 Ford Bronco Wildtrak Sasquatch. Finally, I was able to put my hands on a Bronco after almost 2 years. Yes, it took me forever to put my hands on one. Strangely enough, I booked this Bronco at least 3 or 4 times to do a test drive with it. And every time, I had some recalls, troubles, some repairs to be done on the press cars. It was broken due to some off-roading and stuff like that. Finally, I was able to put my hands on one. Pretty glad, Ford is bringing back the Bronco. It's not the same as before. Now it's a true off-roader who's going to compete against the Jeep Wrangler. Under the hood of this Bronco, we can find a V6 2.7 liter EcoBoost twin turbo, good for 230 horsepower, 415 foot-pounds of torque. This engine is matched to a 10-speed transmission. You can have also the 4-cylinder 2.3 liter turbo EcoBoost, the same engine we can find under the hood of a Ford Ranger. The Bronco is built on the same platform as the Ford Ranger. You can also have the manual transmission with the smaller engine. Unfortunately, you're not able to have the manual transmission with the 2.7, and also the new Bronco Raptor will get the V6 3-liter EcoBoost to have more performance because it's the Raptor. All right, I'm going to test the acceleration with the Ford Bronco. I'm on 35 inches tires. That might affect a little bit the acceleration. We'll see the result. All right, we can do the 0 to 100 kilometers in about 5.8 seconds. Pretty decent for this size of off-roader, I could say, especially with those big tires and all that. Obviously, the differential ratio is pretty high because it's an off-roader. That helps a lot to have a good acceleration. But, the 2.7 liter EcoBoost is doing a good job. And I think that's the right size of engine for this type of off-roader. All right, driving the Bronco, is it more comfortable on the road than a Jeep? I could say yes. It's a larger, taller, a little bit bigger, I could say. The handling, it's a little bit better also due to the front independent suspension. This front independent suspension have their plus and minuses. The Jeep's got the live axle. I think it's a little bit better for off-roading. I know there's some problem with that suspension, especially for the hardcore off-roader. But if your main purpose of owning a Bronco, it's on the road, you will enjoy a bit more this type of suspension on a daily base. But inside of the cabin, it's kind of noisy, similar to a Jeep Wrangler. Every time you're able to remove parts from your actual vehicle, you have to make a sacrifice in the interior noise. That's obvious. Ford didn't do any miracle inside of this Bronco. It's as noisy as a Jeep, but overall, driving this Bronco on the road, it's more enjoyable. I prefer driving a Bronco on the highway than a Jeep. Also, because it feels wider, it feels more solid on the road. When it's really windy outside, it doesn't wiggle on the road like a Jeep. It feels more confident, more stable. I really like that. But just on a daily basis, the Bronco is more enjoyable to drive every day. Look-wise, we've got that cool retro modern look. I really like that. I think you can really notice it's a Bronco from far away. I really dig those kind of design. Just giving you an example, if we're looking at the Chevrolet Blazer, if you compare the new one with the old models, it's hard to tell it's a Blazer. Now with this Bronco, if you compare this one to the older models, you can notice easily it's a Bronco. I really like that. So it's square. Obviously, we don't have an aerodynamic SUV. We've got those bold lettering in the front. front saying Bronco. This one's a Wildtrak, so we've got that black grille, the black wheels, and also some graphic on the hood saying it's a Wildtrak. We've got a lot of off-roading stuff on this model. We've got the optional also Sasquatch packaging. So we've got the big 35 inches Goodyear territory, really big tires on this one. We've got also the OS2 Bilstein suspension package. You can also opt for the OS3 with the Fox suspension. Pretty good suspension. We've got also a good clearance in the front, about 11.5 inches of clearance in the front. We've got also a big metal bumper in the front, ready to handle a hitch. This is pretty cool. All around, it's kind of old school, but still feel modern. In the back, I like those tail lights. We've got a big spare also in the back. If you take a look closely to the spare in the back, we can notice the rear camera was integrated into the middle of the spare. This is really cool. Otherwise, we've got the hard roof this week. You can remove the front panel, the one also for the rear passenger, and finally the one for the trunk. Obviously this one is a little bit more complicated to remove, but it's more practical all year round here in Canada. You got also a soft top. There's also a convertible one. I think for the summertime, the convertible one is the ideal one, especially when we've got some rain and stuff like that. Today I was, expecting to remove everything on this Bronco, and we've got a quick thunderstorm. No warning on my phone or anything. It's just a little bit less practical when you have a more complicated setup like this one. When you remove the doors from this Bronco, something more practical than the Jeep models, the mirrors are fixated to the actual fenders. They're not part of the door, so when you're removing the doors, you still have mirrors. That's pretty cool also. Stepping inside of the Bronco, first thing I noticed, there's more space than the Wrangler. I've got more space for my legs, my shoulder, my heads, everything. Usually when I drive a Jeep Wrangler, I have to put my seat all the way to the back, and still, I'm kind of squeezed inside. It's not the case inside of this Bronco, so this is a big plus if you're tall like me. I'm 6'3". We've got the cloth seat this week with a cool, kind of like camo pattern. This is cool. You can also opt for the leather seats. Inside it's really cool. I like this Bronco vibe. Everything is rugged. Obviously, it's kind of been inspired by Jeep, but improved by Ford. It feels more modern inside of this Bronco. Got a huge screen, cool cluster in front of me. All the buttons are rugged, but at the right place. I really like that. Obviously, there's a bunch of Bronco logos all around. There's not a lot of Ford logos on this Bronco. There's only one on the tailgate. So inside of this Bronco, you feel inside of a Bronco, not a Ford. Stepping in the back, a little bit more space compared to the Jeep products. Obviously, in the middle, you've got a big tunnel for your drive shaft and all that. Not the most comfortable seats in the back, but a little bit better than the Jeeps. If we take a look at the trunk, plenty of space, more space than the Jeep. Really practical this week. Once you get used to that tailgate, I really like that. Easy to open and all that. Plenty of space there. Overall, the interior of this Bronco is really more practical on a daily basis compared to the Jeep. Inside of a Jeep, I feel really cramped. Probably, it's not the ideal when you're bringing kids or a baby and all that. This week with the Bronco, I was able to do everything, I do with a normal car. So that's a big plus for the Bronco. Technology-wise, we've got the latest technology of sync. We've got a bunch of cameras in the front, in the back, 360s and all that. This system works really well. It's quick and easy. I like this sync system. We've got some real buttons for the climate. Every button is kind of rugged, Bronco style. I really like that. We've got a place to recharge our phone. Really cool interior. We've got some big rugged, handles all around. When you do some off-roading, this is really cool. Off-road wise, you've got a bunch of auxiliary switches here on the top. So if you want to add some winch, lights, other stuff, You already have your auxiliary switch inside. We've got a bunch of buttons here on the top of the screen. You can lock your front and back differential. You can also activate your trail assist, trail turn assist, your traction control and all that. Also on the top, you can add a bunch of accessories for your phone, a GoPro. You can plug your phone on top of the dash. Something a little bit different from the Jeep products is really the GOAT mode. So you can switch to 4x4i, 4x4 low, 4x4 automatics, and a bunch of options too. You got different modes. You got normal, eco, sport, you've got sand, you've got mud, you've got Baja, you've got a bunch of options, and these are kind of like simplified off-road mode. They're gonna activate different modes of the 4x4. They're gonna lock your differential. So, you know, if you're more a beginner, I could say, doing some off-roading, this is cool. You don't have the old school lever like inside of a Jeep. So this is way much more easier, you know, using all those modes inside of this Bronco. You can play for hours and hours, you know, with those modes. I can spend like 10 minutes explaining you each mode, but overall, a lot of option for a lot of fun. Speaking of off-roading, this week I just did some mild off-roading, nothing too hardcore with this Bronco. It's more like a test drive than an off-road test this week. Obviously, this thing is super capable to really push the limit. You need a really good trail and probably some partners in case you get stuck. This week I didn't have time to go on a big adventure to get stuck with my Jeep friends, but still, you know, just trying a little bit all the modes and doing some soft off-roading, you can tell this Bronco is super capable, especially this Wildtrak with the Sasquatch packaging. You've got more than enough off-road capacities than most people can handle. On the towing side, you can tow up to 3,500 pounds. Obviously, this is not the ideal towing rig. You can tow more with a Ford Ranger. This is probably due to the suspension setup and all of that. So not a lot of weight you can put behind of this Broncos. On the fuel economy side, this week I was averaging 13.9 liters per 100 kilometers. This is pretty decent for an off-roader with the locking differential, the I ratio of the differential, the aerodynamics, the weight, you know, the metal bumper and all that, the big 35 tires. It's pretty decent, you know. Usually with Rubicon with the V6, I'm averaging around 17 to 18 liters per 100 kilometers. So the V6 2.7 liters is doing a good job. So price wise, a base Jeep Bronco is going to run you for $43,199 Canadian. A base Wildtrak 4-door is good for $65,394. And the model I'm driving this week, it's good for $75,129. You know, price wise, it's right there with Jeeps. I drove several, you know, Jeeps who were at the same price as this Wildtrak. Personally, I think most people might not need all the big off-roading stuff on this. Maybe with the 33 inches, this Bronco will be maybe more capable in certain situations with more traveling in the suspension. I think it looks really good with those big tires, but you have to make a sacrifice on the fuel economy and all that. You know, there's plenty of models from the base one all the way up to the Raptor, so you have plenty of choice on the price range. Overall, I think the Bronco is a better daily driver than the Jeep Wrangler, but I still believe the Wrangler is a better off-roader and it's got more experience and more, you know, it's more reliable on the off-road scene than the Bronco from my point of view. But if I had to choose in between a Bronco and a Wrangler, I prefer the Bronco, you know, because it's way much more fun to drive on the road, more comfortable, and just drive it on the road on a daily basis. It's just more enjoyable from my point of view. So let me know in the comments, are you team Jeep or team Bronco? I would like to see your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. and we're gonna see each other on the next review.